Welcome to the information session for potential applicants to the competition for the Model Demonstration Projects to Develop Equitable Family Engagement with Underserved Families of Children with Disabilities. This competition falls under the Technical Assistance and Dissemination Program, a discretionary grant program managed by the Office of Special Education Programs. This information session will provide you with information about applying for this grant opportunity that was posted in the Federal Register on February 14th, 2024. I am Carmen Sanchez, a project officer at OSEP. Today, I will provide interested applicants with information regarding this grant competition. And notice that the assistance listing number is 84.326M. Slide 2. I would like to go over some caveats before we begin this webinar. First, the intent of this presentation is to provide guidance only, and the information contained in this webinar provides a general summary of the information contained in the notice inviting applications and the application package. Therefore, it's important that all prospective applicants read the entire notice, the entire application package, and any additional relevant information. In addition, applicants are encouraged to listen to a more general webinar entitled Applying for Office of Special Education Programs Discretionary Grants for an orientation to the overall application submission process. That webinar can be found at osepideasthatwork.org, which is the same location that houses the link to this recording. Slide 3. Please be aware of application timelines. The notice inviting applications was published in the Federal Register on February 14th of 2024. All applications are due on April 24th, no later than 11:59 and 59 seconds in the evening. Note that this is Eastern Time, and applicants should determine the corresponding time in their time zones. I will discuss the implications of a late submission later in this session. Slide 4. The application package will soon be available on grants.gov. It contains the most comprehensive information on how to apply. In it, you will find a Dear Applicant letter from the Acting Director of OSEP's Research to Practice Division. The package includes important information about the submission procedures using the grants.gov system. The package also contains the detailed selection criteria that will be used to judge the quality of the applications, as well as general information in all required forms. Please read the application package carefully. Slide 5. In the following section, I will go over important information, including the purpose of this priority and eligible applicants. I will also discuss the funding level for this competition. Slide 6. This competition is part of the Technical Assistance and Dissemination to Improve Services and Results for Children with Disabilities program. Its purpose is to promote academic achievement and to improve results for children with disabilities by providing technical assistance, or TA, supporting model demonstration projects, disseminating useful information, and implementing activities that are supported by scientifically based research. Slide 7. This priority is model demonstration projects to develop equitable family engagement with underserved families of children with disabilities. The purpose of this priority is to fund 4 cooperative agreements to establish and operate evidence-based model demonstration projects. The models must implement sustainable, school-wide policies, practices, and strategies that systematically engage underserved families of children with disabilities as partners and leaders in creating more equitable and inclusive schools that lead to improved outcomes for children with disabilities. Slide 8. So, how is a model defined? A model is a set of existing evidence-based practices, including interventions and implementation strategies, i.e., core model components, that research suggests will improve outcomes for children families, personnel, administrators, or systems when implemented with fidelity. Model demonstrations involve investigating the degree to which a given model can be implemented and sustained in real-world settings by staff employed in those settings while achieving outcomes similar to those attained under research conditions. Slide 9. Please be aware that the applicant needs to present information on the proposed sites to implement the model. Applicants should explain the criteria and strategies they will use to select and recruit a minimum of 3 sites, which include demographic information, community contacts, and school initiatives, including approaches to introducing the model to and promoting the model among site participants. Applicants are encouraged to choose sites in a variety of communities, for example, urban, rural, and suburban communities. The sites must include various families and underserved families, whether defined by race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, religious affiliation, family composition, or military connection, among others, and have the need to improve equity and inclusion as demonstrated by disproportionality in the identification, placement, discipline, or outcomes of underserved children with disabilities. The selected sites can include any combination of grades from pre-kindergarten through high school. Let me also stress that all the sites don't have to be confirmed unless the applicant is seeking competitive preference points. More on that later. For purposes of applying, the minimum requirement is to explain the criteria that will be used to choose sites. Slide 10. Eligible applicants under this priority include state education agencies, local education agencies, including charter schools that are considered local education agencies under state law, institutions of higher education, other public agencies, private nonprofit organizations, outlying areas, freely associated states, Indian tribes or tribal organizations, and for-profit organizations. Slide 11, award information. We anticipate making 4 awards. Each award will not exceed a total of $1,600,000 over a total project period of 60 months. The total budget for the 5th year of the project will not exceed $100,000. This program uses an unrestricted indirect cost rate. For more information regarding indirect costs or to obtain a negotiated indirect cost rate, please visit ed.gov and key in indirect costs. Slide 12. I want to draw your attention to terms defined for the purposes of this priority. Slide 13. Evidence-based means the proposed project component is supported by promising evidence, which is evidence of the effectiveness of a key project component in improving a relevant outcome as defined in the Code of Federal Regulations, based on the relevant finding from one of the sources identified under promising evidence in the Code of Federal Regulations. Slide 14. Underserved families refers to foster, kinship, migrant, technologically unconnected, and military or veteran-connected families, and families of color, living in poverty without documentation of immigration status, experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity, or impacted by the justice system, including the juvenile justice system. Underserved families also refers to families that include members of a federally or state-recognized Indian tribe, English learners, adults who experience a disability, members who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning or intersex, LGBTQI+, adults in need of improving their basic skills or with limited literacy, and disconnected adults. Slide 15. In this section, beginning on slide 16, I will review application information, including expected project assessments and activities, selection criteria, and requirements. Once again, this webinar provides a general summary of the information contained in the notice inviting applications and the application package. Please make sure to read the entire notice, application package, and any additional relevant information if you intend to apply. Slide 16. The proposed model must assess how it can A, increase the sustainable implementation of school policies, strategies, and practices that support the engagement of underserved families of children with disabilities. B, increase the capacity of school personnel, underserved families of children with disabilities, and their communities to build trusting relationships that support children with disabilities, learning, and achievement. C, increase the capacity of underserved families of children with disabilities to be leaders in partnership with school personnel in setting policy, making decisions, and implementing practices. Slide 17. The proposed model must also assess how it can increase the engagement of underserved families of children with disabilities and their children with disabilities in school and extracurricular activities. And lastly, improve the academic, social, emotional, and behavioral development and outcomes for underserved children with disabilities, increase access for those underserved children with disabilities to general education and extracurricular activities with their peers without disabilities, and decrease disproportionality in the identification, placement, and discipline of underserved children with disabilities. Slide 18. The proposed model must include core intervention components, that is, what will be used and implemented in the sites, core implementation components, that is, how will the model be implemented with fidelity, and core strategies to sustain and disseminate the model. That is, how will the model keep being used after the project period and be disseminated widely? The project will have a staggered implementation design. The model will first be implemented in one site to allow for further development and refinement, and then implemented at 2 or more sites for further refinement. Keep in mind that the notice inviting applications spells out the requirements for all these components. Slide 19. Here are some of the application requirements. An applicant must include in its application a detailed review of the literature addressing the proposed evidence-based model or its implementation components and the proposed processes to develop equitable and school-wide family engagement with underserved families of children with disabilities that systematically involve them as partners and leaders. A logic model that depicts at a minimum the goals, activities, outputs, and outcomes of the proposed model demonstration project. C, a description of activities and measures to be incorporated into the proposed model demonstration project, i.e. the project design, to develop equitable and school-wide family engagement with underserved families of children with disabilities that systematically involve them as partners and leaders. D, a description of the evaluation activities and measures to be incorporated into the proposed model demonstration project. E, a plan to disseminate the results of the project. F, a budget for attendance at required meetings. I want to stress again that the notice inviting applications goes into specific detail about the specifics of the requirements. Slide 20. There are other project activities spelled out in the notice. To meet the requirements of this priority, each project at a minimum must communicate and collaborate on an ongoing basis with other department-funded projects consistent with paragraph E under the heading Application Requirements, maintain ongoing telephone and email communication with the OSEP project officer and the other model demonstration projects funded under this priority, provide information annually using a template. If the project maintains a website, include relevant information about the model to ensure that the website meets or exceeds government or industry recognized standards for accessibility, and ensure that annual progress towards meeting project goals is posted on the public website. Notice that a project-specific website is not required, but public posting of annual progress to meeting the project goals is required on a public website. Slide 21. The notice lays out how the application narrative should be divided into 4 sections. These section headings are identical to the 4 categories of selection criteria used by reviewers to evaluate each application. I will go over the selection criteria and point out in general terms what should be addressed in each section of the narrative and how the reviewers will consider each of the selection criteria. Please read the notice carefully, since the information contained in the notice is significantly more detailed. Slide 22. The first section is significance. Reviewers will score the significance of a proposed project between 0 and 15 points. In determining the significance of the proposed project, the Secretary considers the following criteria. 1. The potential contribution of the proposed project to increased knowledge or understanding of educational problems, issues, or effective strategies. 2. The extent to which the proposed project is likely to build local capacity to provide, improve, or expand services that address the needs of the target population. 3. The importance or magnitude of the results or outcomes likely to be attained by the proposed project, especially improvements in teaching and student achievement. And 4. The likely utility of the products, such as information, materials, processes, or techniques, that will result from the proposed project, including the potential for their being used effectively in a variety of other settings. Slide 23. The second section is the quality of project design. When evaluating applications for quality of project design worth up to 35 points, reviewers will consider the following factors. The extent to which the goals, objectives, and outcomes to be achieved by the proposed project are clearly specified and measurable. 2. The extent to which the design of the proposed project includes a thorough, high-quality review of the relevant literature, a high-quality plan for project implementation, and the use of appropriate methodological tools to ensure successful achievement of project objectives. 3. The quality of the proposed demonstration design and the procedures for documenting project activities and results. Slide 24. When evaluating applications for quality of project design, reviewers will also consider the following factors. 4. The extent to which the design for the implementing and evaluating the proposed project will result in information to guide possible replication of project activities or strategies, including information about the effectiveness of the approach or strategies employed by the project. And 5, the extent to which performance feedback and continuous improvement are integral to the design of the proposed project. Slide 25. The third section is adequacy of resources and quality of the management plan. Reviewers will score the adequacy of resources and the quality of the management plan between 0 and 25 points. Taken into consideration, the adequacy of support, including facilities, equipment, supplies, and other resources from the applicant organization or the lead applicant organization. 2, the relevance and demonstrated commitment of each partner in the proposed project to the implementation and success of the project. 3, the extent to which the time commitments of the project director and principal investigator and other key project personnel are appropriate and adequate to meet the objectives of the proposed project. Slide 26. Reviewers will score the adequacy of resources and the quality of the management plan also by taking into consideration 4, how the applicant will ensure that a diversity of perspectives are brought to bear in the operation of the proposed project, including those of parents, teachers, the business community, a variety of disciplinary and professional fields, recipients or beneficiaries of services or others as appropriate. And 5, the adequacy of the management plan to achieve the objectives of the proposed project on time and within budget, including clearly defined responsibilities, timelines, and milestones for accomplishing project tasks. Slide 27. The fourth section is quality of the project evaluation. Reviewers will score the quality of project evaluation between 0 and 25 points. In determining the quality of the proposed project evaluation, the Secretary considers the following factors: the extent to which the methods of evaluation are thorough, feasible, and appropriate to the goals, objectives, and outcomes of the proposed project; the extent to which the methods of evaluation will provide performance feedback and permit periodic assessment of progress towards achieving intended outcomes; 3, the extent to which the methods of evaluation provide for examining the effectiveness of project implementation strategies. Slide 28. In determining the quality of the proposed project evaluation, the reviewers will also score the following factors. 4, the extent to which the evaluation will provide guidance about effective strategies suitable for replication or testing in other settings. And 5, the extent to which the methods of evaluation include the use of objective performance measures that are clearly related to the intended outcomes of the project and will produce quantitative and qualitative data to the extent possible. Slide 29. The external reviewers will judge and score the quality of the application using these 4 selection criteria. Each application can receive up to a total of 100 points. As I mentioned on the previous slides, the significance of the project can be scored up to 15 points, quality of project design up to 35 points, adequacy of resources and quality of the management plan up to 25 points, and quality of the project evaluation up to 25 points. The application package contains more details about the narrative requirements and selection criteria. Applicants are strongly encouraged to read these carefully when preparing the application narrative. Slide 30. In addition to the up to 100 points reviewers can give an application, the department can assign additional points for competitive preference. That competitive preference is for models and schools with a high percentage of military-connected students, which can receive 0, 5, 7, or 9 points. Under this priority, applicants will receive 5 points if they propose to locate one site for the model in a school with a high percentage of military-connected students, 7 points if they propose to locate 2 sites for the model in schools with a high percentage of military-connected students, and 9 points if they propose to locate 3 or more sites for the model in schools with a high percentage of military-connected students. For the purpose of this priority, a high percentage of military-connected students is 20% or higher of the school population. The notice inviting applications includes detailed information on how to be considered for these competitive preference points. Slide 31. A few more reminders about the general requirements and assurances. A successful applicant must make positive efforts to employ and advance in employment qualified individuals with disabilities and involve individuals with disabilities or parents of individuals with disabilities ages birth through 26 in planning, implementing, and evaluating the project. Slide 32. Sometimes applicants have questions about the permissibility of sub-grants and contracts. Under this award, a grantee under this competition may award sub-grants to specific types of entities to directly carry out the project activities described in its application. You can refer to 34 Catalog of Federal CFR 75.708 for more information. Slide 33. In this next section, beginning on the next slide 34, I will cover some general information related to submitting an application. Once again, please refer to the notice for additional information. Slide 34. Please note that applications must be submitted electronically in the grants.gov system. See grants.gov submission procedures and tips for applicants included in the application package. We strongly recommend that you do not wait until the last date to submit your application. Grants.gov will put a date timestamp on your application and then process it after it is fully uploaded. The time it takes to upload an application will vary depending on a number of factors, including the size of the application and the speed of your internet connection. And the time it takes grants.gov to process the application will vary as well. If grants.gov rejects your application, you will need to resubmit successfully to grants.gov before 11:59 minutes and 59 seconds p.m. Eastern Time on the deadline date. If there are reasons why an applicant cannot submit using grants.gov, the applicant must follow the information contained in the application package. Applications cannot be submitted by email, and they must be submitted prior to the deadline of 11 o'clock, 59 minutes and 59 seconds p.m. Eastern Time on April 24th. We strongly encourage applicants to submit all narratives and attachments in PDF read-only format and to ensure the narratives and attachments are formatted to ensure accessibility for reviewers. Slide 35, submission tips. In order to make sure that the application is submitted on time and correctly, please register as early as possible in grants.gov and start the application process. Do not wait until you have the application ready to register. Grants.gov will create a workspace for applicants to submit the pieces of the application over time. If you're already registered in the system for award management, make sure your registration is current. Submit early, a day or more in advance if possible. Should there be any problems with the Grants.gov system, submitting early will allow you time to correct the problem and resubmit before the deadline. Verify that the submission is okay. Grants.gov will send applicants notification that the submission was on time and validated, so applicants should make sure that they receive that confirmation and not assume the submission was okay. Slide 36. Here on slide 36, we have some additional advice for submitting an application. Pay attention to the maximum funding levels for the grant as contained in the notice. Awards will not be made for amounts higher than the published amounts. Following the recommended organization, page limits, spacing, and font sizes facilitates the application review process, and applicants should strongly consider following these recommendations. PDF files make it easier for the system to put together different parts of the application into one application that reviewers can more easily read and follow. The Grants.gov submission procedures and tips for applicants in the application package can be extremely helpful for submitting the application in Grants.gov. Resources about document accessibility are available at osepideas.work.org under Resources for Grantees 508 Accessibility. Slide 37. Please note that if for any reason an application is submitted more than once and validated more than once, the last application submitted will be considered and previous applications will be considered duplicates and therefore ineligible. There are two additional reasons why an application may not be eligible. First, all applications received after the published deadline will not be eligible for funding. Second, applications that do not address the priority will also not be eligible for funding. For example, an application proposing to create a playground for children with disabilities will not be eligible, since that is not the purpose of this priority. Once again, the purpose of this priority is to fund 4 cooperative agreements to establish and operate evidence-based model demonstration projects. The models must implement sustainable school-wide policies, practices, and strategies to systematically engage underserved families of children with disabilities as partners and leaders in creating more equitable and inclusive schools that lead to improved outcomes for children with disabilities. Slide 38. Thank you for viewing this webinar. As I mentioned at the beginning, this webinar covered highlights of what's contained in the application package and priority. If you have additional questions, please contact me, preferably by email at carmen.sanchez@ed.gov. You can also contact me by phone at 202-987-0117. Have a wonderful day. Thank you again for your interest and attention.